All right, budgeting, Module 2, Fundamentals of a Successful Budget. Up first, we have this quote, and if you read the ones on our last module, this was the first one. Budgeting is telling your money you're in charge. Sticking to a budget is showing your money you're in charge. So how do we create a budget that you can actually stick to? Well, there are several factors. Also, I should mention that I have an optional reading in the Canvas courses. Feel free to go through that. I took a lot of what I'm going to go through in this PowerPoint presentation from that. I've highlighted all the sections that I think are relevant. Please be aware that there is a section in there about debit and credit that I think is limiting and is not necessarily that helpful depending on your current situation. Nevertheless, give it a look if you're interested in reading more about it. But again, I will be covering the majority of this in this presentation. So up first, keep it realistic. We want to keep everything within the realm of possibility. Drastically changing habits that you've developed over, I don't know, your entire life or recently are quite difficult to change. A good example would be, let's say you buy clothes on a regular basis all the time. You buy a lot. Now you're like, I need to start budgeting. Okay, let me now just not buy any clothes. Well, that's not really realistic because quite honestly, you're going to probably fail because you can't live up to the changes. So one way to go about this is to simply just set small goals and try to reach them consistently. And by doing that, you're going to hopefully be progressing and become more confident in your ability to make these changes and keeping it all within the realm of possibility. So, plan ahead. Again, this is as simple as it sounds. Make sure you know what's going on. Your budget should not be static. It should move month to month, week to week, day to day, hour to hour. I'm just kidding about that. But it should obviously have some variability built into it. And honestly, most surprises are a result of simply just poor planning. So make sure you check your social calendar. Your best friend's birthday is on the same day every year. That doesn't change. Now, surprises we'll get into later in terms of the difference between like an emergency fund and savings and whatnot. But again, in this case, planning ahead, making sure that those surprises are just not going to occur. Now, learn to say no. This is probably the most difficult one, and it goes akin, these are all interconnected at some point, so it might sound repetitive, but it's nice to break these down into different categories. And learning to say no, I would say, is one that most people struggle with the most. Because you want to buy the newest and coolest thing. You have a friend who always buys things that are, he's the first one to get them, whatnot. The thing is you need to think of your future self. And it's helpful to think of you staying in control of your goals and getting satisfaction from that versus just simply getting gratification from simply buying something. And learning to say no is not saying no necessarily, but it's saying maybe not now or later. And most people who just buy whatever they want aren't financially savvy, and they're probably lying to you. So just make sure you keep that in the back of your head, that you should garner gratification from knowing that you are in control of your goals. Now, finding a budget buddy. One thing that I've found is that if you have somebody to report to or a friend that knows your situation, that you are going to be more likely to follow through with this undertaking. People do diets together, they work out together. Budgeting in this context is no different. Making sure that you have a person that you can talk to that knows your situation, that knows you're trying hard, is going to be there, and it's going to help you follow through everything regarding your budget, whether that's eating out less. Okay, you have a budget buddy that's going to be like, hey, I thought we weren't eating out as much. So feel free to reach out to people and start budgeting together. All right, now the big one, budgeting apps. I do want to make it clear that Westminster, in this case, is not sponsored by Mint or NerdWallet. However, I have just mentioned a plethora of different ways to build a better budget and create all these things. It's really hard to track now in this day and age where things aren't as easy to track necessarily, using credit cards, debit cards, Venmo, stuff like that. Using budgeting apps, specifically Mint, I have found is incredibly helpful. So please make sure to check those out. Again, this whole series is going to be talking about the fundamentals, and these are different tools to help you develop those fundamentals of a good budget, of saving, and of managing credit. Along with, if you go into the other sections, student loans and whatnot. So please make sure to check these out, as they are probably going to be incredibly helpful. And yeah, that is all we have for this module. Up next, we'll be talking about where to start, parts of how to calculate income, and where to implement actual aspects of your specific budget. All right, thank you. Stay tuned. We got a lot more ahead of us.
My name is Rick Haskell, and I'd like to thank you for watching this installment in the Student Empowerment Series. This series was prepared by students in the Bill and Vieve Gore School of Business as part of our outreach through the Center for Financial Wellness. I'm a finance professor here at the college and director of the Center for Financial Wellness. We've prepared the Student Empowerment Series to assist students in important elements in their life and their progression through the college, part of their Westminster experience, if you will. In this series, we take a look at financing higher education. We look at budget, credit, and savings. And we look at some of the more important elements of adulting. We'd like to invite you to follow us on social media at our Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook sites. You're welcome to use the QR codes provided or simply go to this site. Thank you.